What if I told you the way it has always been done is not the best way? Facing your fears will change your life. The passion behind this journey is merging two separate worlds into one with the goal of creating value and awareness for a better life.
I'd rather be sidelined trying to achieve greatness than watch greatness achieved and it only set on the sideline. Now introducing your host, Jacob Emery.
This episode is brought to you by R&R Pipeline, an infrastructure company. Our purpose? Enhancing America's infrastructure with a safety-driven, integrity-led culture that provides an environment for team members to grow and thrive. Welcome to another edition of the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast. Today, we have a special guest, a serial entrepreneur, and I know that I cannot explain it well enough or do it the justice that it deserves. So Ryan Henry, EOS implementer, I will give him that. And I know this because he's my EOS implementer, a member of Strategic Coach, a visionary who is a coach and collaborator. Ryan, I am not going to do your serial entrepreneur description justice, so please describe to the listeners what that looks like and who is Ryan Henry.
Yeah, hey, well, first of all, it's great to be on your podcast, and I'm sure we'll have a ton of fun talking about wherever we go and whatever we talk about today, because we always do.
Agreed.
So for the listeners, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, lumber yards, shoe stores, and real estate. And so it was a family business of family businesses. So I learned the entrepreneurial bug by osmosis, just growing up in that environment. I saw the good, I saw the bad, I saw the ugly of both a entrepreneur, that being my grandfather and father, run multiple businesses at the same time, and then also have a bunch of family members in those businesses working with them. So I saw both those issues, which can be big issues for entrepreneurs. One being having your family members in the business, and two, having more than one business and the demands that come along with it. Mm-hmm. That being said, I am a serial entrepreneur. I don't have any family members working in my businesses, so I don't have that issue going on. But nonetheless, I am a EOS implementer. I have been an EOS implementer since 2018, and I've been using EOS, that being the Entrepreneur Operating System, in my businesses for about 16 years. So I was exposed to EOS pretty early on, so it's been 2008. And if those of you remember, 2008 was a pretty scary year. So EOS was a life preserver in a very, very scary time for us. That being said, I also spend my time doing other pursuits, one of which is I own a demolition company that's called Site Construction Services, and that is based in the city of Detroit. I'm also an owner in a company that is called the Entrepreneurial Leap, and that is focused on early stage entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in the making, and I'm sure we'll get more into that. Mm-hmm. There's some other projects that I'm up to, but it's the same teams that are involved with that. But my time is broke out very specifically throughout my calendar year.
I have seen his calendar for everyone listening, and it is very detailed. Ryan himself is not a detail-driven person, but he has to operate within a detailed structure, much like myself. That's how we clicked. We have construction backgrounds. We both started, so to speak, in the trench. Mine was $9 an hour shovel in my hand in 2007, and I know you have a very similar story. But I want to touch on going back even more in time to the Entrepreneur Leap and what it represents, and how I know for me, the 16-year-old version of myself would have not went through that learning curve of adversity at a young age, had the Entrepreneur Leap been something that I was introduced to. And I think that's probably why you're so passionate about it. But explain to the listeners what the Entrepreneur Leap is and what's the vision behind of it and the purpose behind of it.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So, like I said, the founder of EOS, that being the Entrepreneur Operating System, Gino Wickman, he, myself, Rob Dubay, and our other partner, Laura Romanella, our fearless leader, the four of us created what's called the Entrepreneurial Leap, or E-Leap for short. So for the rest of our time, I'll just refer to it as E-Leap. This was a passion project of Gino's. Gino's mentored scores of entrepreneurs in his life and been impacted significantly by mentors in his own life. And he thought, if I could write a book giving it the absolute clarity about the things you must avoid to be successful, to live the dream that he calls it. Mm-hmm. If I could give you the 8 things you must apply, again, to increase your odds of success, and the 9 stages you must be aware of. So what he did is he wrote a book that helps people know who they are, if in fact they are actually an entrepreneur or not. We have the 6 essential traits to know if you're an entrepreneur. Not everybody is. You're either born like that or you're not. Mm-hmm. Of course, that's going to break some hearts because some people think they want to be one so bad.
Yep.
Unless you are one, because it's not easy. Tough road. Most entrepreneurs fail.
Friend.
Oh, man, big time. I've seen both. And so first is just, who are you? Do you have what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur? Well, if you're not an entrepreneur, you don't have what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. The second piece is just, well, what do you want? So what is it that you want? And clarifying what it is you actually want to pursue. Mm-hmm. And then how are you going to get it? So who are you? What do you want? How to get it? And focusing on things you must avoid, apply, and be aware of to increase your odds of success. So Gino wrote a book called E-Leap that's focused on that. There's a lot more to that book, but that's the gist of it. Mm-hmm. He speaks a lot about coaching. He speaks a lot about mentoring. And he speaks a lot about having peer groups. So I read the book back in 2019 when he first produced it and published it, and I thought, man, this is not only a book, this is like an academy or something. I didn't know what to call it at the time. And so what we did is we came together, the 4 of us, and took Gino's content that's in the form of a book and turned it into an academy. And we call that the Entrepreneurial Leap Academy. And the Entrepreneurial Leap Academy is an online virtual academy focused on early stage entrepreneurs. That being, maybe it's just themselves by themselves, up to about 10 people. Mm-hmm. And what we do in that academy is exactly what Gino talked about in the book, which is help them say, I know how to avoid the 8 critical mistakes. I know how to apply the 8 must-dos, like clarify your vision. It's a must-do. You must clarify your vision. And then the 9 awarenesses, like a stage 1 awareness. You must generate cash. Nothing else matters if you can't generate cash. And so we teach them in the format of a collaborative classroom how to say yes, yes, and yes to those 9 questions. We give them a mentor, someone to coach, counsel, and advise them, someone who's been there, who's done that. And we put them in peer groups in between the collaborative classrooms to sharpen one another. Iron sharpens iron, right?
It does, yes.
That's right. So that's peer groups, mentoring, and collaborative learning. Mm-hmm. And it's a 7-month program giving them the empowerment to know how to build the life and business of their dreams. And that's what the Academy is all about.
And so many people see the result without understanding the effort and the time and the energy, the heartbreak, the grit, the determination, the borderline possessed belief in yourself. Entrepreneurship, and I've come to really find this out in the last 6 months or so, especially since I met you, it isn't the most glamorous thing in the world. I look at it as much like a disease to some extent at times as it is this glamorous thing. And you can probably elaborate on that better, but there are times where I tell my wife every once in a while, man, I just wish I could be normal just a little bit sometimes. Now, I don't really wish that, but there are times where it's so exhausting and tiring that it's like, damn, can I just have a somewhat of a simple life? But I love everything that I do, everything that I'm a part of, everyone I work with. I wouldn't have it any other way at the end of the day, and I know that. Can you relate to that? Is that something that you've dealt with yourself?
Oh man, could I relate to it? I feel like it's like an everyday thing.
It is an everyday thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So as soon as you said that, I thought about a couple different things. I thought about one, that most entrepreneurs die broke. I thought, most entrepreneurs have experienced some sort of trauma in their life, and working through that trauma can create alcoholism or workaholism or any ism that's an addiction. So addictions, depression, bankruptcies, that all is in the choppy waters. That is the risk taking. That is not just doing entrepreneurship, but in fact being an entrepreneur. And so when you said that, I thought of the risk that is inevitable for someone who has this. It's truly in our DNA. Like it's science. Like it's not something you cannot become something you are not. And so that also is something I think about. So if you're somebody out there and you're wondering, man, am I an entrepreneur or not? Here's what we would say to you. Go to e-leap.com and please take the assessment. It's free. And that assessment will tell you if you are or are not an entrepreneur. And it's not for us to say. It's for you to decide if you have the ingredients to do it. So if you would, I'll just give you this quick 60-second little spiel if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're wondering if you're an entrepreneur. Maybe you're kind of a wannapreneur and you want to be something that, well, maybe you're not. So again, here, check this out. 6 essential traits. You either have them or you don't. Visionary. That just means you have a lot of ideas all the time. It never stops. There's more to it, but visionary. How about passionate? You're not only a passionate person, but there's something in you cannot let go of. You're just so passionate. You can't let go of it. Doesn't matter how hard you get knocked on your ass. You just keep getting back up because you're so passionate about it. So passionate like that. Not that you're passionate, but that you're passionate about something like that. Problem solver. Like you wake up and you love to lean into problems. So if that's not you. If it's not like hell yes, then it's no, and maybe this isn't you. And that's just the top 3. So visionary, passionate, problem solving, driven. I mean, that's driven to the place of you will not stop until it's done right. And there's a dark side to that driven.
There is. Right?
That's all that. But that's just, you're so driven, it's not going to stop. Next is risk taker. Now, some people are a little bit wilder on the gambling side of risk taking. We teach some stuff about how to mitigate that. But nonetheless, like my son says, when everybody's going this way, you go this way. You're a risk taker. And then lastly, this one gets a little people thrown off a little bit, but responsible. Responsible just means you don't blame anybody when something happens. You take full responsibility. And usually that's a very emotional thing. You bear the weight of it. So if you have those 6 essential traits, then you're an entrepreneur. And if you're sitting there like, man, I don't know, more than likely you're not. Now, again, lean into it. We have an assessment. Go onto our website. There's nothing wrong with being a solo entrepreneur. There's nothing wrong as being a Jeff Bezos or a Elon Musk. You got to decide that range of where you're at. But a true entrepreneur has those 6 essential traits. And we're just trying to save lives because this is hard enough.
It's great work, and I cannot commend you enough for the effort put behind of it, because I know almost 20 years ago, Ryan, 16-year-old Jacob Emery was leaving high school, cracking a beer before the parking lot exit was there. I'm not even out of the parking lot yet, and I've had a beer chugged already, and I'm just wild, I'm crazy, I don't fit in anywhere, and it's one of them unexplainable things. And I don't even know if we talked about this, I think we have, but it's all came full circle 20 years later. The 16-year-old version of me, I'm cracking open a beer in my little beat-up Ford Ranger, I chug a beer, I pull out a parking lot, and Arnold Pipeline is out front of the school digging in a gas line. And I just had this gut feeling, this visionary type gift or instinct or whatever you want to call it. That's going to be my company one day. I said that probably 5 to 10 times.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Wow.
So 5 to 10 times over, I say that in my head, and I don't speak about it for 12 or 13 years. I never mentioned that moment.
Wow.
For 12 or 13 years. And 12 or 13 years later, we were in the process of buying Arner Pipeline or getting ready to start that journey right in that time frame before I ever spoke about it again. 20 years later, Ryan, I go back a few months ago to the high school that happened at. Now, the best part of the story is I was asleep in class before I left school that day, bored out of my mind, and the school bell rang that woke me up. So I'm asleep in class, I wake up from the school bell, I go chug a beer in my truck, have that vision. 20 years later, I walk back into the school to help present I was going to do a speech for leadership, for aspiring leaders at that age, and I'll be damned, Ron, if I didn't walk into the school, start feeling the same gut feeling I used to feel 20 years ago, walk into the same class, sit at the same exact table in the same seat that I had that vision the day that I was in class. And I'm telling you what, deja vu was so impactful that day. The teacher asked me, are you okay? Did you have deja vu or something? You just about jumped out of your seat. So it all came back full circle. And I can tell you about it all offline, but absolutely incredible.
Wow.
There was no doubt in my mind at that moment. It just solidified that 16-year-old version was just lost. I didn't know what I was because I'd never fit in anywhere. I didn't do good in school.
That's right.
I couldn't pay attention. I couldn't read very well growing up. I struggled with it. I was an outcast to some degree. I didn't really have a group that I fit in. And a lot of entrepreneurs end up in jail or in prison because they're so extreme and don't fit anywhere. And this Entrepreneur Leap is going to really help so many people figure it out. And whether you are or you're not, at least you know. How many people have you met that have probably spent their whole life either in jail or prison because they didn't understand it, or trying to be an entrepreneur and then failed? And this will help out so many people.
Yeah, that's exactly why we decided to take the content that Gino created in the form of tools in a book and actually turn it into a program. All the tools are for free. So if you're interested in learning more, you can go to our website. Every single tool that's in the book is for free. And then, man, if you're like, oh my gosh, if you're an entrepreneur, you got 3 people on staff and you're scared, because let's be honest, you're scared. All right, we know you are. And there's nothing wrong with saying you're scared. This stuff is hard, particularly when you feel isolated / alone in a very what seemingly is a competitive landscape. Mm-hmm. So if you feel like that, we just want to tell you, we're a community. EUS companies are a community that's collaborative. Strategic Coach entrepreneurs are a community of entrepreneurs that are collaborative. That just means we're not here to push our egos. We're actually here to be vulnerable and honest, and we're just here to help. It's one of our core values is to help first. So if you're an entrepreneur listening and you only have 3 people and you need help and you're like, man, I want a mentor, I just don't know where to find one or what to do or how to be mentored, that's what the Academy is for. If you're like, hey, I've heard of EO or YPO, or if you don't even know what those are, they're just Entrepreneurs Organization and other entrepreneur peer groups, and you don't qualify for those because of the size you are, well, we have a peer group structure in our Academy. And if you're trying to learn in an educational institution about how to be an entrepreneur, I'm sure there's some great ones out there, but here's how we think about it. MBAs are built for people that want to do administrative work, and entrepreneurs are terrible at administrative work. So if you really want to be phenomenal at being an entrepreneur, come learn from other entrepreneurs. Because business administration and being an entrepreneur are completely different things. Mm-hmm. And so the Entrepreneur Leap Academy is built for you to help you master entrepreneurship and start the foundation, which starts with knowing who you are. And so one of the classes we teach, I'll stop at this segment, but if you're thinking, man, what's he talking about? Well, let me give you a peer into our first class number 1, which is about who are you. We clarify with absolute clarity that you have the ingredients. Mm-hmm. If you have those 6 essential traits, and we welcome you in and say, this is a lifelong journey of understanding who you are, mastering those 6 essential traits. Next is we build your passion statement. Who are you really? What are you really passionate about at the core of who you are? And every decision we made from that, not from moving forward. Next, we ask, what are your core values? because every single person you come in contact, if they don't have those same values, they will distract you, dissuade you, and dismantle you from pursuing that passion. So you got to have people that have the exact same core values that you do. And then next, you just got to decide if you're a partner person or not. And you might think, a partner person or not, that's an interesting thing to put in there. Not even close. Because most entrepreneurs are living in hell because they thought they needed a partner and they're not partner people. So if you're not a partner person and you have a partner, you need to end it now because you're prolonging hell. It's not going to change. And I can speak from experience. God bless my former partner. He's not a partner person. I am. And never was going to work. And so maybe you are a partner person and that's why you're struggling, because you need a partner. So just knowing that, whether you're a partner person or not, your personal core values, your passion statement, and understanding with absolute clarity and confidence that if you have what it takes and the range of which type of entrepreneur you are. So know thyself. Because once you know thyself, everything else changes. So that's just class one. But if that's you, if that's that type of entrepreneur, we created this for you because we love you, because we've been there.
I'm not a part of eLeap whatsoever. Maybe not yet. Maybe one day Ryan will bring me in. But yes, it is absolutely for someone that is uncertain and doesn't know. And I'm telling, for the listeners that might be in that realm of what Ryan just explained, it can expedite your happiness and the joy that you find on a daily basis so much by just knowing. And Ryan, I'll say this, and I'm sure you'll agree, but self-awareness to me is like a superpower. There's so many people that 100%. Are just not self-aware. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I learned as strategic coach. I know who I am, why I do what I do. Without a shadow of a doubt, I understand me. Now, it took a lot of work, but knowing who you are is not something that you just turn a key and figure out. It is a lot of unpleasant understanding, because a lot of time who you think you are and who you actually are fairly different. You have to be willing to be wrong. You have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to be exposed, know your weaknesses. But when you just pinpoint your strengths and understand your weaknesses and delegate them away and let other people that are strong in them areas do that for you, and who not how from Strategic Coach, just knowing who you are and why you do what you do and wanting to just do that and nothing else, man, it's freaking powerful. So powerful. And I want to go to the partnership thing, the collaboration side of this, because that's why we're here. Me and you, we're high quick starts, we're visionaries, we are collaboration, partnership type individuals. We are in a not business venture together yet, but in a business setting. You are essentially a business coach, and you are, I consider you a mentor. You're my friend more than mentor, I would say, but I have a true love for you and who you are and what you do, because I'm the same person. We have personal experience in the past that are very, very aligned as well. But
yeah, for sure.
Explain to you a partnership person, because I'll give you my 30-second version, but for me, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go together. I knew that R&R Pipeline was only going to go as far as me by myself could take it. But I knew me and Cody could take it so much further, and then my happiness and my life would be so much better off with my relationships and my time. Because I know that I have a lot of weaknesses, and I'm cool with that, and I'm okay with it. I know what they are, but I knew that the company would be better off with both of us, and I would be better off with both of us. And being a partner, there's no shame in that whatsoever. And especially coming up in the construction world, pride is such a big thing from the generation that taught us how to do construction. Everyone wants to be right. Everyone has to have the last answer. Everyone is a genius. No one has any weaknesses, right? And we were probably raised in that environment. And I learned really quick, like, man, this shit just don't make sense. I'm not going to do it that way. I'll have Joe down the street do, because that's what he's really good at. I'm not good at that, and I don't want to do it. There's no pride in me doing something I hate doing. The pride in me is knowing that I'm not good at it.
Yeah, that's right. I think, well, there's multiple things running around. So the question was about partner people. And so let me clarify two things. So if you are sitting there listening to this podcast and you go, Jacob, that's really good for you, and Ryan, that's really good for you because you guys are quote unquote partner people, and you're going, I'm not a partner person. I just need to clear there. That's right. You just said it. It's not only okay, it's totally good. Because if you are not a partner person, then that's part of knowing thyself.
Yes.
And so if you're not a partner person, but you don't want to do it all, and you can't do it all, here's the good news. You can't do it all. The bad news is you're trying to do it all. Right. And so maybe you're not, but most people are. And so if you're not a partner person, but you want to have a great team, then just pay people really well. Get really clear about what it is you're looking for. And if, my EOS Implementer is coming out. So my visionary to other visionaries is coming out. So if you're a visionary, you're a big idea, big relationship, big sales, R&D, culture, coaching type leader, and you hate managing people day to day, man, for all things holy, go read Rocket Fuel and go find yourself an integrator.
Yes.
An integrator runs the company day to day. They lead and manage and create accountability. They execute your business plan. They hold everybody accountable, and they execute upon the special projects that are going on in the company. And they free you to be your visionary self and go live in the future.
So there are multiple different types of entrepreneurs, and some are collaborators, some are partnership people, some aren't. Ryan, I know you are, I am, we work together, but true collaborators, true partnership people, there is something powerful about your network and about who you are as an individual. Having the self-awareness to know that is also something that some people just don't. But I want to talk about partnership people, collaborators. What makes a person a partnership person? What makes them not a partnership person? And explain kind of from your perspective the power in it, and then also the understanding that not everybody is a partnership person. If you're not, what to do in that situation.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna break down your question into three things. And the first part is more just a clarifier and a qualifier, which is not about being a partner person or not in the context of owning a business with other people. You mentioned the word collaborator. And so I'm going to use that as a reference point. There's entrepreneurs out there that are so competitive. They're so not open and not honest about what's really going on, that they put up a facade and they're super competitive. It's ego driven type leadership, stuff like that. And so they're not collaborative. They're very competitive and they're very alone many times and isolated. Maybe it's they trusted a person way too much once, got burned, and they never trust again. And so you're going to experience entrepreneurs out there that are not collaborative. They're not open and honest. They're not help first type people, and they're super competitive. And I would just say there's one word that I could say if you experience an entrepreneur like that, and it ends with an exclamation point, and it's spelled RUN. It's just run. Like there's thousands of entrepreneurs out there that are collaborative, that are open, that are honest, that want to help. I'm talking to one of them right now. And so there's a community of entrepreneurs out there that are competitive, and there's a community of entrepreneurs out there that are collaborative. Just find the ones that are collaborative. Just to speak to that real quick. Now, as it relates to being a partner person, what we teach in eLeap is really simple. And so either you are a partner person or you aren't. And so if you aren't a partner person, nothing wrong with that. Just pay people really good. Meaning you can own the business 100%. It's great. Even if you're starting up a new business, but you're not a partner person, do not feel the pressure to bring in people to your owner's box and be a partner with them. You don't have to do that.
Yep.
Just again, pay people really well. There's like 1,000 ways you can do that. So a base salary, I don't need to get into all of those, but just pay people really well. And if you are a partner person, then know that about yourself. And Jake, you were talking about how you're a partner person. I'm a partner person. Now, if you're a partner person, it really kind of comes into two different categories. Number one, are you the majority owner? You want to be the final say and make the final call? If that's the case, then you're probably a majority owner partner person. The other is you're more like everything's equal. And so I'm in a couple different partnerships and everybody's equal owners. and there's clear owner's expectations in the partnership about what each person brings to the table, and that's how we break it down. And so, be a collaborator. Don't be competitive. Just as an entrepreneur, just life will be a lot easier for you. Be humble. Life will be a lot funner, a lot more lucrative, a lot more easy. A little Joe Polish there, easy, lucrative, and fun. And if you're not a partner person, that's no problem. Find an integrator, pay people really well, and you'll be great. And if you are a partner person, just decide: are you a majority final say one, or are you more of an equal one, or are you coming in as a minority partner? And that hopefully that gives you some clarity as far as a contextual reference point.
Know thyself, right?
It's all about knowing thyself. That's what it all comes down to.
Yep. So now I want to shift gears, and I want to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, and we've talked about this at length now, known each other for 6 months or so. It is what my foundation has been built on. My infrastructure has built with iron between heavy equipment and weightlifting. And you were in the Marines.
I was.
You are a person who loves wellness and the physical pursuit, and you have had some adversity in your life here in the last few years that have probably made you appreciate the ability to take care of yourself even more. So you don't have to go into detail about what happened, but talk about just the physical pursuit, how the iron has helped build your personal infrastructure.
Yeah, and just for the listeners, so in the Marine Corps, I was a heavy equipment operator. So excavators, dozers, loaders, graders. That was my first run really into some really large HE type stuff. And then I was a concrete laborer for 2 years, poured concrete. And then I did excavation work, more on the laborer side, not on the operator. I told both bosses that I worked with that were entrepreneurs, hey, I was training the Marines to operate. And the concrete guy goes, here's a come along. And the excavation guy goes, here's a shovel, meaning operate those first, and then we'll see if you can operate a piece of equipment. You remember, I was like 18, 21, years old, respectively.
Right.
Nonetheless, got into project management, owner rep in the heavy equipment space, large infrastructure work. So Jake and I's background is eerily similar in that regard.
Yes. And more ways.
So that is my foundation, literally, is infrastructure. Literally built roads and built new infrastructure. So just some qualifying context there for that. Regarding my health, I've always stayed in extremely good shape. I think there's been a period coming out of the recession where health was not a focus, and definitely got off that health kick for probably about 5 years.
Probably in survival mode.
Total survival mode.
Yeah.
And what I started to realize was I need to find this balance again. So I got back into working out and got in pretty darn good shape leading up until the COVID era. And then coming out of COVID, I got a lung infection. Didn't have anything to do with COVID, at least I don't think so. But got a lung infection that hospitalized me for a month. Had to have lung surgery, chest cavity surgery. Long story short, infection went through my spine into my brain. Pinched a bunch of nerves that created neuropathy and sciatic problems. I had, maybe a little TMI, had a diaper for 2 months, a catheter for 4 months, self-administered IV antibiotics for 7 months. And I almost died in the hospital. And so I came out and had to have an extreme amount of PT. My right leg was fully atrophied, had full drop foot, was basically like a peg leg. And was walking around with like a Moses walking stick for about 8 months.
How long ago?
So that was May of 22. So we're coming up on 2 years.
Yeah.
So thank God the infection's gone. I'm off all pain meds. I'm off all the nerve meds. I am sitting actually quite comfortably, which is not normal for me because of the nerve pain that's in my rear end.
You still have moments during an 8-hour course where, every hour you're moving, stretching, doing something where you just you'll throw a leg up and start stretching in the middle.
Yeah, I know. He's been in the session with me, folks. He's seen it. So
I'm not making it up. I promise.
No, it's real. So so where I'm at today is I spend significant amount of time in the morning doing yoga and stretching and breath work and cold showers, and I'm back into the weightlifting. I've had a little bit off and on with my PT, but I see a PT twice a week. We're working on my myofascia because that's really what's still screwed up from the surgeries and what have you. But what's interesting about rebuilding my infrastructure, never waste a crisis. So what I can say, the learning lessons for me is that having balance with my life has never been more of a priority. Even that, though, saying that, I'm so easily off balanced. So,
Do you think that you are honestly ever going to be balanced, or do you think that you just have to make sure you're intentional with your time to the point that your life is being taken care of the way that you need to have it taken care
yeah. So my business partner Laura Romanella is quoting someone else, says, "Find me a straight river." So my hope is I'm a skier. So my hope is to ski through life. But as long as I'm going down the road, it's if I can stay focused, there's stuff coming at me every single day. That's normal.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is that how I eat, how I sleep, and how I start the morning is everything.
It is everything. I think
It's everything,
preparation
man.
in general. So preparation overall is such a massive, massive thing for life in general. And
Yeah.
I did some content this morning about what day do you start your week on? And I would say 99.9% of people would say Monday, but I actually start my week on Sunday afternoon because when I wake up Monday, I have to have zero thought process about my Monday and about my week. My preparation is already in place. I have my lunch is packed. If I need food that day, I'm going to have it. My gallon jug with my aminos is set out. I wake up at 3 o'clock on Monday morning. I put on clothes, grab my gym bag, grab my aminos, and walk out the door. I don't have to think about anything. My day is planned out, and I do that every day. And I think a lot of people with just the basics in life, Ryan, they don't prepare for the next day or don't prepare by doing the little thing. And then, like, oh shit, what's tomorrow? Oh, it's Monday. Okay, you wake up at whatever time, you oversleep, and then you don't know what you need to wear, you don't know what you're doing that day. And then your whole week starts off wrong. And it's just these little simple things that can really have a massive compound effect, positive and negative, by not doing them in the negative light. The simple little preparation steps that we take as driven, undetail oriented entrepreneurs, for the most part, having that preparation in place can be massive for us on a day-to-day as far as being clear and intentional about what we do and understanding what you put in your body and what you put in your brain. So what you consume physically and mentally have a huge part of that. And I want to talk about positivity. I know you're a positive person. Positivity, we have a can-do attitude to resolve issues, is one of our core values. It is something I'm big on. If you're skiing down the hill, it might be going like this, like you said earlier, but as long as you're focused on the right thing, the outcome is going to be good. So if you always have a negative mindset, or you're always worst case scenario, or looking at the negative, your outcome is more than likely not going to be good in a lot of scenarios. Where if you don't ever focus on a positive outcome, even if the positive outcome happens, it might not be perceived as positive because your mindset going into it. And so I say all that to say, you think about someone who always thinks of the negative thing. So faced with a situation and it could be detrimental and all this. If you can be in a bad mood for no reason, you can be in a good mood for no reason. In life in general, right? So win or learn, never lose is a mentality that I'm sure you have. It's one that I myself have. If I'm skiing,
that makes when you say that, Jake, I think about going back to that May of 22. I'm in the hospital moment. Jake, you mentioned we're in Strategic Coach together. That's where we met in Chicago, in Dan Sullivan's Strategic Coach program and the Signature program. Shout out to Steve Nooner, our coach. And one of the things that Dan teaches in what he calls the gap versus the gain, the gain being you're always measuring yourself against your past, the things that you gained. And so the gap being that you're measuring yourself against the ideal, the horizon, and you're never going to get there because it's idealistic. So most driven people measure themselves against the gap. And it doesn't matter what they accomplish, they've never accomplished everything they thought they were going to do. The horizon, they never get there. And so I've always been hip to that concept. I really liked it, but I never applied it in the most granular, specific ways because I actually thought it was kind of hokey. And so I'll tell you a little story about that. Dan's got a tool called the win streak, which is basically just every day, end your day by going back and recounting all of the wins, all the gains that you made throughout today. And today, one of my gains will be that we did a podcast together. And that creates a momentum for you at the end of the day. So as you're preparing for the next day, you're preparing on the win streak that you're in. So I'm back in the hospital. I've never done this win streak before. I've known about it for years. I thought it was hokey. I didn't do it. And so I'm in the hospital. I didn't die. I made it through surgery, and they're like, you're going to make it. But I'm rebuilding all my infrastructure, everything. My whole life got wiped out. I mean, financially, relationally, health-wise, I had to rebuild everything. And I definitely felt like I was in a full reset, for sure, because I was. And as soon as I thought of that, right in that moment, something flashed in my head. Do win streak. Now, mind you, I'm in the hospital with a catheter, an IV in my arm, a diaper on, a huge cut across my back. I'm in excruciating pain, and my life is in not the most winning space. Okay, let's just put it that way. But I thought, I got nothing to lose. And so every day I started, I just recounted my wins.
Yeah.
And it was like the silliest stuff. I mean, I don't want to get too crazy, but it was like little stuff. And every day since that moment, I've journaled every win. And anytime I get discouraged or I'm not positive, I just go back and I look at my wins. And that reframes everything.
It does.
Everything.
It's so powerful as well.
So you talk about positivity. Yeah. How do you maintain positivity in the face of all these issues, these problems, these obstacles coming at you? You live in the game. You live in the win streak. So if you think that's hokey and weird, God, I just want to tell you, it'll change everything if you do it. Just try it. Yeah, just try it.
So I know I went through this myself probably 2 years ago where I just was in between not knowing. I was uncertain about certain areas of my life. And so it was actually from a David Goggins book, and he said, when you wake up and you're pissed off at the world and you're in a shitty mood, record yourself. Tell the camera exactly how you feel. Say exactly what's on your mind. And then for me, I would go work out. So I did this for about 2 weeks, and I would record myself, and then when I got done at the gym, I would watch it. And I would laugh at myself, and I would call myself a little bitch for being soft because of my mentality at that point. Because it was just being stuck in a rut of not knowing why, uncertainty. But my life is good. And so it would take me out of that gap mentality right away. And some days it wasn't that bad, but it would instantly change. And the gap and the gain really, if you read the book, it puts some details of some very, very blunt examples in there where, holy shit, your kids aren't doing what you want them to do, and they go, I think he talks about his kids, and they're not listening, they're doing this, they're doing that, haven't slept in their beds for a couple of weeks. What if they weren't there anymore?
Yeah.
And so it changes perspective very, very quick. And I know in my life, as when I reflect and I think about all the times that I've had these huge problems in my life, ultimately it's the time the weight's the heaviest. You don't know how you're going to get through it. You just know you got to try to persevere. But that is right when you're at the threshold of a breakthrough, from what I've seen. You're getting ready to progress past something because the problem you're facing is a progression opportunity, but you don't understand it until you break through that threshold of it. And problems normally are a sign of your progression in life in general. Whenever we look at last year, we were facing these issues, and I spoke about some issues in Strategic Coach. You come sit down with me, And then you just said, hey, why don't you come talk to me for a minute? Right? And then one thing led to the other. And there was a problem building. It was much bigger than what we knew, but there were signs to say that, yeah, this is an issue. And then it ended up figuring out later. Majority of the time, we don't understand why at the moment, but later on we figure it out. Sometimes you just got to trust it. Don't always have to understand everything at the time. Sometimes you got to trust it and know that this problem is a sign of progress or an opportunity to progress. And the only time that failure really happens for me is when you quit. So I look at life like a highway. So on this highway to success is the highway itself. But every once in a while, there's going to be an exit ramp of failure where you have the opportunity to quit and to back down. And right when that exit ramp looks the most appealing is more than likely the time that you're thinking about it and you're right there and the weight's the heaviest and you don't know, you have uncertainty, and all you got to do is just go past that exit ramp and just have faith that you can get to the end.
Sure.
And I don't know if you can relate to that or not, but a lot of time that weight is the heaviest.
Oh, of course I can relate to it.
At the beginning of a break.
100%. So that makes me think about something that Gino teaches us and that we teach our clients, and I've taught you and your team, which is hitting the ceiling. And so I'll be brief on this, but if you're listening and you're in this place where you're listening to Jake talk and you're thinking, yeah, it sounds like these guys got it figured out and all that. Well, first of all, as it relates to the gap and the gain, the creator of that, Dan Sullivan, somebody goes, well, you must never live in the gap anymore. And he goes, yeah. About every 7 minutes. Yeah. About every 7 minutes. They're like, 7 minutes. But he goes, yeah, about 7 minutes I fall into the gap. So that's the creator of it. So the gap is always there because you're driven, because you're not letting go of what you want. So you're always going for more. So the gap's always going to be there. Right. It's just how you frame it. Just FYI, just close that loop. The second piece is this. I would say if you're feeling some type of way, it's getting a little dated, but some of the kids know what I'm talking about. There was a rap song, Some Type of Way. And so if you're feeling some type of way, you've heard before, maybe you've heard before, that business and emotions don't go well together. Mm-hmm. And I would just say this to you, is that business and emotions left at emotions don't go well. But business with emotions that lead to thinking are phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And so ceilings are feelings. So if things feel complex, you need to stop and think. We need to break through the ceiling by simplifying. Mm-hmm. So maybe right now, the reason that your business is too complex is you just make it too complicated. Yep. Now, I'm not speaking from theory. I literally just had a session on Friday, and we had to totally transform how we're doing things at eLeap. Mm-hmm. And make some big moves. And many of them were not easy, but we had to simplify. We had to simplify. So maybe that's you today. Maybe you're feeling like things are way too complex. Yeah. I just got good news for you. It's normal. I got bad news for you. If you don't change, you will die because it's grow or die. Yep. And the other people, if you just will yourself to stay stuck against the ceiling, you don't have to live like that anymore. So you can simplify things. Yeah. There's so much power in that. And I want you to touch on clarity breaks because majority of the time, whenever someone is inside of an organization, especially as entrepreneurs, because we're so passionate and so we have such a drive to be a part of something great. And so clarity breaks was something that you really made me understand was necessary for me because I am high strung. I don't sleep very much. I cannot shut off my brain hardly at all. Sure. And it was getting to the point of it being. Oh, you have that too. That's normal. Okay. Yeah, that's a normal trait, I guess, right? Yeah. But it was getting to the point where I was detrimental to everyone in my life, myself included. 100%. So I wasn't self-aware of that, and I'm a fairly self-aware type of person. But when you really broke down the clarity break even more in depth to me, I understood it, and I did it. Yeah. And kind of like a shower thought or a vacation. Yeah. When someone leaves an organization or leaves the current state of what they're doing a long time, daily, weekly, when they're in it, it's hard to be outside of it. But when you're away from it, you can look at it from a different lens. So talk about the clarity break. Yeah, and I'll use that question about clarity breaks to talk about just the 4 other ceilings that you can hit. Because if things are too complex, you're hitting a ceiling. but you need to break through. And the way you break through is not more complexity, it's more simplicity.
Yep.
So clarity break is just you taking time to think about what's maybe sometimes what you're feeling. So don't deny those emotions is what I want to get to.
Face it.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you need to take a clarity break and own, why do I feel this way? Probably because you need to delegate. You can't do all the stuff you're doing. If you're feeling like you're herding cats, then you probably need to systemize some things, build some processes so that everybody's doing it the same way. So it doesn't feel like you got to be the guy or the gal trying to grab all these cats and keep them moving and going in the same direction. You might feel like you got fog of war. Like you got emails and texts and expectations and people knocking on your door and all the ideas inside of you. And you can't see between a 10-year idea, a 3-year picture, a 1-year goal, a short-term issue, a long-term issue, a rock, a scorecard, or just a bunch of crap you're feeling. And so you can't see the trees from the forest. It's just fog of war. And you got to slow down, man. You got to put some of those issues you're talking about. You're driving your team fucking nuts. You got to put those issues on the long-term issues list for the greater good of the company and stay focused. And so sometimes you got to get really good at long-term and short-term prediction by sometimes, and most of the time, just saying no. You can't do all this. And then lastly, Keith Cunningham, his book, The Road Less Stupid,
Love it.
He says that opportunity without structure is chaos. And look, I am chaos.
Same.
Okay? I will take an opportunity and I will get people all lathered up to go and we'll have no structure. And I'll just create complexity and chaos.
Same.
So maybe that's you. We call those the 5 leadership abilities. That's how you break through the ceiling. I went through all of those to say this. You need to think. A clarity break is time for you to get out from under the fray, out from email, out from text, leave the office. In fact, if you're a visionary, I don't know what you're doing in an office because that's where visionaries go to hide. You should go out, take a walk. I shoot hoops. Sit in a Starbucks. I couldn't do that. Gino does that. I don't know how you could do that and stay focused. But get to a place where you can connect all the dots, see everything that's going on, and just regain your confidence about what it is you actually want.
Yeah.
Reframe yourself. So it's kind of like this. If you've ever hung out with a friend at a party and they start just, talking to you about their problems and you become like resident expert on what they got going on, and you're thinking, dude, bro, or girl, depends if you're a guy or girl, like, how come you can't see it like I see it? Well, the reason is they're in their feelings about it, and you have no emotional attachment to it. So you think about it unattached to the emotions. The power of clarity breaks, or at least one of the power of clarity breaks, is to detach yourself from the emotion of it and see it for how it really is. Because we get blind to it.
Yes, absolutely. So I came up with a problem-solving guide, and I just released an episode actually today about the 5 steps of my problem-solving guide, and the first one is presentation. So instead of me creating chaos, trying to find clarity is what I'm after, but I create chaos trying to get there, and then more than likely I'm never going to get clarity on it because I've screwed everything up so damn bad. So I do this in my personal life now too, Ryan. The first thing I do now when faced with a problem is I present to myself all of the facts. So what is factual about the situation, not what I feel, what is the logical side of it, what is the fact? And I have to almost set myself out of my seat now, and I have to go sit in the corner as a third-party lens and say, okay, if there was zero emotion and zero connection to this at all, what are the facts of the situation? And when I started doing that, it changed everything for me because I can feel a certain way, and I can argue with you because I feel this way, but if the facts are in front of me, it's black and white, I'm not going to argue with myself about it because there's the fact. I'm right or wrong is irrelevant. Here's what's fact. And I actually spoke to my attorney about this, and it's common for someone in law to know what is the fact about the situation, right? In any type of litigation, when it's, you versus this other person, there's a lot of emotion in it, depending on what it is, but the facts will matter. So that's something that I kind of came up with, a 5-step problem-solving guide for myself. But the first one is to get clearly defined facts. What are they, and how can you move forward with it from that point? And then there's another part of this that I want to touch on too, that I kind of went through this the first quarter of this year. The theme for the first quarter for me was priority awareness. So, priority awareness. Am I aware of what truly is a priority in my life, personally and professionally? And if it's not a priority, what am I doing with this opportunity or this thing presented to me? I'm saying no. And the ultimate productivity hack sometimes is just saying no. Saying no is a complete sentence. Someone like me and you who are easily attracted to opportunities and shiny things are going to have to say no more than we say yes, because it is so easy for us to get distracted with taking on something that is not a priority in our life or that doesn't fit what our priorities are. And for me, saying no is an absolute superpower, because opportunities are always going to come up. What do we do best? We network. We know hundreds of people. We know opportunities are going to come all the time. But saying no is a sentence by itself. So I don't even explain myself anymore. I just say no and then move forward with the conversation. I'm not going to explain myself or justify why no is the answer. And that gives me priority awareness that sometimes I lacked in the past. I know what is going to get me toward the goal that I have and what isn't. And if it's not toward that goal, it's a no, more than likely. And then the other thing that I want to touch on, I want to see what you think about this, but if you haven't got what you want out of life, then you're not worthy of it. And that's okay. Now you can admit to yourself that you suck at this thing and you can improve on it. Better to know you're bad for a season than to pretend that you're going to be good for a lifetime. If you're not making as much money as you want, it's because you're not as good as you think you are. If you're struggling from imposter syndrome, you're a student pretending to be a teacher. No students feel like frauds when you're trying to learn you're a fraud. When you get up to teach the class and have never done it before, that's when you are exposing yourself to being a fraud. So the student can sit back and wonder if they're a fraud or not and not, expose themselves. But when you get up to teach someone something, you're going to showcase if you are that fraud or not that fraud from imposter syndrome. It's normal to not know what you're doing, though. As we did so many times in our career, we didn't know what we were doing. So it's normal to not know what you're doing. If you didn't, or if you did know what you were doing, then it wouldn't be called growth. So recognizing that you don't know what you're doing and you need to grow to understand the thing that you're trying to do. So fear is something that we all have. A coward and a hero both have fear. Run toward the fear, high-five your fear, and carry on. You're going to get tired, you're going to get sad, you're going to get stressed and hungry, misunderstood. All these things are going to happen. That just means that you're a human and you don't need a damn medication for it. The buffalo and the cow story. There's a storm coming, the cow runs from it, the buffalo runs toward it. And I look at it from this lens a lot of time, where the thing that is immediately weighing you down and holding you back, it's either indecision, where you're not making a decision that you know you need to make, or you're not making a decision to create a perfect plan. Sometimes you just got to do the thing and move forward and figure it out as you go and not have a perfect plan. But it's normal for us not to know what we're doing sometimes, Ryan. And like this podcast is a prime example. If you would have told me 1 year ago we'd be sitting here doing this, I would have said you're a damn fool. And I can't even say that I was confident at all in myself to be able to do this, because this is facing one of my biggest fears in life. But I was committed to it enough to know, for the greater good of what the purpose is behind the show, that I'm all in. And I'm vulnerable and willing to be vulnerable enough to know that I'm probably going to make a damn fool out of myself more times than not. But that's okay. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to grow as I'm applying myself. And so just in life in general, how many times have you been through something where there was uncertainty, you didn't know, but it was okay because you understood that. You had the self-awareness to know, I don't know what I don't know, but I'm willing to commit and apply myself and learn from it. And it's going to be worth it at the end, because even if I lose, I'm going to learn something.
How many times have I done something where I didn't have the confidence
So
that it
look
was
at it
going
from
to
the four
work.
C's, right? From strategic
Yeah,
coach.
100%.
I mean,
Of course.
it aligns with that perfectly.
Well, I'll tell you what. When I think about, I'll go way back. When I signed up for the Marine Corps, when I was a scared 18-year-old punk ass kid, okay? And I didn't know anything about the Marines. I didn't watch Full Metal Jacket. I didn't have like family members that were in the military. I was just trying to reset my life. And when I signed up for the Corps, all I knew is I wanted to change. And my confidence is what I wanted. And so I was willing to accept whatever they threw at me because I felt like I wanted to become a responsible, independent adult. I really, truly did, and I think that was the first hashtag adulting, if you will, place where I truly, on my own, decided I want to do this. And that right there, that springboard, it just gave me all the confidence in the world because I came back after 3 months of boot camp and I felt like I left a punk kid and I came back a grown man. And from there, I bought a house. And I bought all the Home Depot 1, 2, 3 Home Depot books back in this is like dating myself a little bit, late 90s, early 2000s. And I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. I just read the book and be like, okay, so just, pull that wire, like something, pull the power out or something in the house. And we just figure it out. And I remember when I met my wife and we decided we were going to get married at 21. I wasn't confident in knowing how to be a husband. Thank God she's still with me today. 24 years or something like that we're going on this year. But, I didn't have any confidence. I just knew I wanted her and I wanted to spend my life with her. And so I say that to say that when you think about, if you're out there listening right now to Jake talk and to listen to me, and you're facing a risk. Now, John Wimber of the Vineyard Movement used to say that belief in what you want faith is spelled R-I-S-K. Right? And so if you're out there and you believe that you want to do that and you believe you can do it, that's your passion, and that's your vision, it's going to take risk. You're going to have to risk it. Now, you can mitigate that risk, but it's risk nonetheless. It is risk nonetheless.
There is no safe
route. And so when you say what you're talking about confidence, I don't know that I've ever was confident I could actually do it. I was just confident in that I wanted to do it. And Dan Sullivan with Strategic Coach teaches that great leaders are great wanters. I just always think about, what do you want? And if I'm confident that that's really what I want, I go after it. And that's my litmus test for pursuing things. Now, here's a couple of things I've learned along that. You mentioned we're both quick starts. And so, shout out to Kathy Kolbe, and the Kathy created Kolbe A Index, which is which is fact finder, follow through, quick start, implementer. And so on a scale of 1 to 9, I'm a 9 quick start. That's pretty quick. If you're like a 2 to 3, I am terrifying to you. But here's what I learned as I pursued what I wanted. I used to commit too quick about partnering with people or working with people or doing certain things. I'd go, yes, let's do it. And I wouldn't fact find enough because I'm about a 3 fact finder, which is kind of low. I follow my instincts. Bad thing. I just can get things really quick. So what I learned in being more confident in pursuing what I wanted was to commit quickly to being curious. So, Jake, you're a perfect example. You started talking to me. You said about 4 sentences to me, and I got super curious. And I leaned in and was like, tell me more. And then I came back to you after break, and I was like, tell me more. And then we talked more, and I was like, we need to talk more. And so I just kept getting more and more and more and more curious. And what I learned was, and maybe you can apply this if you're a quick start. And if you don't know if you're a quick start, if you've started a lot of stuff and there's a lot of damage behind you, you're probably a quick start.
Unorganized, would probably.
You're very unorganized. Yeah. You make fast friends, and there's a little bit of damage behind your relationships.
Yeah.
So if you're a quick start like that, be super curious, but then give yourself permission to not commit. Meaning, don't make a decision to commit to it. Give yourself the space to go take a clarity break. Get out of the emotion of the idea that you're in, and then look at it, like really look at that thing, and then test it. So put the stress tests on it. What's that going to do for my time if I get involved in it? What's that going to do for my relationships if I get involved with it? Does that help me pursue and be part of my purpose if I do it? And I don't know why these are doing these things in the background. But and then lastly is what kind of money is going to happen? Is it a 10x relationship? So time, money, purpose, relationship, the four freedoms. And so I use that to go, if it doesn't do those things, I'm not going to pursue it. And then I also do this. Now I'm learning the hard way, so I'm learning live. I'm eating my own dog food every day on this. But it's a learning lesson nonetheless. What I've learned is I move at the pace of our integration. Meaning, if we don't have integration for it, if we don't have a who can integrate it and make that vision whole, and who stress tested it and just hammered it and said, all right, let's do it, who can lead and manage and create accountability for it, I don't do it. So if we don't have integration for it, I don't do it, because I'm certainly not going to integrate it. And I need that half glass empty person to just cut it to shreds to see if it's there. So that's when you think about pursuing things with confidence, it's not just go for it. I've certainly done that enough. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen from time to time, but be curious. Give yourself time to get clarity. Move at the pace of your integration. There's some nuggets.
Very, very well said. And I'm going to add one short little snippet to it, and I got one more thing to touch on.
Sure.
So I call it Pursuit 151, and it's similar to the 4 C's, but it's my version of how I look at it. Whenever you're in pursuit of something, if you have 100 shares of commitment, 100 shares of confidence, you have to be 100% committed. So all 100 shares have to be in, but only 51% confident. And if you're not at least 51% confident to move forward with something, then you need to go back to the drawing board and do more homework. But with the podcast example, I was 100% committed because of what I thought it could become. I was 51% confident, not because of my damn self, to be honest with you, but because the people around me I knew.
Sure.
But I had 51% confidence, so I had enough to move forward with it. And even to date, Ryan, I'm probably 75 or 80% confident in it overall. But I was committed to it for the greater good of the vision behind of it, the purpose behind of it. And I committed to the thing and took action, knowing that the plan in place at the beginning would not look like anything close to that in 6 months. Here we are almost 6 months later, and I can tell you that is spot on. That the only thing that has stayed the same throughout the journey has been change. And it's been for the better. It's been for the progression of it. But sometimes you just got to step into the unknown and just go for it and take that risk, because there is no such thing 99% of the time as a perfect plan. Anyone that has said they had the perfect plan and nothing ever changed has probably not taken much risk or pursued much at all in their life, if I could just say that.
Oh my goodness, you're not kidding.
Yeah. And then I want to touch on this and get your opinion on this, because this is something that I'm sure you're going to be able to relate to. Success isn't what you have, but it's who you are. So 12 years.
I like that. That's good. That's really good.
12 years for one goal for me. 2 days after accomplishing the ownership of R&R Pipeline, me and Cody purchased the company almost 5 years ago now. In May, it'll be 5 years.
Congratulations.
We purchased the company, and 2 days later, I was so lost and empty and pitted inside because I felt absolutely nothing. So Mount Everest goal, this lifelong thing that I've been working toward,
Right.
losing friends, family, relationships, money, probably taking years off my life to get there, the all-in mentality, not knowing for 6 months if I'd have a house to live in for a while, and just
Yeah.
everything into this thing that I wanted, and I got it, and then I felt absolutely nothing, and I was missing one big key component. So I looked at the purchase of R&R Pipeline, that climbing this mountain, and one day the mountain that's in front of you will be so far behind you it barely will be visible in the distance. So when you turn around and look at the climb up to that mountain, you'll barely be able to see it, what was once impossible, this unattainable achievement. But the person that you become and learning to get over that original mountain, that will stay with you forever.
Right.
That is the point of the mountain. So the joy in the journey, I call it joy in the journey, not having destination disease. I did not understand that, man, I'm just not being present. I'm not enjoying this process. And I can reflect on a moment when
That's good.
me and our attorney, Jim Havens, and Cody were sitting in our conference room. The bank that we had a guaranteed 100% commitment letter from backed out on us unannounced, just blindsided us with this, backing out. And essentially, in business terms, let's just call it a betrayal, but we'll leave that where it is. But backed out, blindsided us.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling like I was in the 12th round of a boxing match with 30 seconds left, and I can't see out of my right eye, and I had the absolute piss beat out of me at this moment, feeling almost like ready to give up and knocked out. And Jim Havens said, "Man, isn't this fun? Man, isn't this fun?" And
Oh man.
I have
Oh, my
never
God.
wanted to beat the fuck out of a 65-year-old man so much for about 3 seconds.
I was
at the
thinking,
moment.
you're a sadist.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
what I
that's
didn't
great.
understand though,
Yeah.
until after, but it kind of shifted that moment a little bit. Man, it was fun because I
Yeah.
will never be in that position again, and I will
Right.
never feel more present in that environment because all the chips were in. It's coming down to the last hand. It's crunch
Yeah.
time. There's 5 seconds left on the shot clock, Ryan, and I'm getting the ball for the shot. And that's how it felt at that time. And it's like I'm 0 for 10 on the night. The ball is coming to me still, and I still got to
Yeah.
shoot it, right? So
Yeah.
I just didn't understand that the success and the joy is really an internal thing. It's something that you feel, and because of how you feel inside, that is what the success criteria really looks like. Because I used to dream about the problems I have today. I used to sit around and wish for these kind of problems. And
Right.
now
That's good.
I understand that, man, 5 years ago, I would have died to be where I'm at today. I could not even fathom that my life could get to this point. I didn't even know this life existed. And now I'm so grateful that these adversity lessons diversity in my life, in your life, in all of our lives, it either makes us or breaks us. And
Yeah, 100%.
regardless if it makes or breaks you, it's who you become a lot of time is because of adversity in life. I'm so grateful for the things that happen in my life. Most people would have never survived. They would have cracked. I'm grateful for it because it's who I am now. It's made me who I've become, and I don't want to be somebody else. I'm grateful for all the things that happen. A lot of
Hear,
time,
hear.
the things that happen in life, don't pray for strength or don't wish for strength. Wish for the opportunity to get stronger. And I understand that now. Oh my God, Ryan, when that perspective finally clicked all the way through, everything, the way I viewed the world changed.
Yeah. Is there a question there?
Just your comment on it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Can you relate to that, I guess?
But can I? Yeah. Oh, well, for sure I can relate to it. Yeah. So outside of just saying yes and amen to that was a sermon in and of itself there, folks. You should just go back and listen to that one. So I think if there's anything I could say, I'm 46. Still got a lot left on the journey. There's still a lot. There's still a lot of tread on the tire here. If there's anything I could go back and say to my 18-year-old self, or somebody that's a little bit further behind me, or somebody that maybe is right with me collegiately, it's simply that to take what you were saying, to say that the adversities that you face, when you look back at the adversities, you realize those are the moments where you changed. Those are the moments where you grew.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to those moments, those are the moments that you dread and brought you stress and brought you anxiety. Now just think about that for a second. Leading up to it, it's stress, anxiety, sleeplessness. Ugh, that's terrible. You get into it, you break through, you look back, and you're like, oh God, I needed that.
Mm-hmm.
So what you said is, I look forward to it. I look forward to the testing. I look forward to the trial. I'm 2 years post and really kind of still in the middle of a trial. And somebody asked me this like 2 weeks ago. If you could go back, would you not have it happen? I'm like, well, first of all, that's just an unfair question, because I can't. But what the problem with it is, even if I could, the problem is I love who I am now. And I couldn't have become the person I am without those storms and without that trial. So how does that work? I don't know. But what does that mean? And so I would just say this: if you're going through something and you are hoping and wishing it away, the only thing I can tell you is this, and you mentioned it, be the buffalo, basically. Just run into it, embrace it, go after it. You'll get through it quicker and you'll learn through it harder, but you'll learn.
Yeah.
And most of the time when you run into the storm, and we call it enter the danger in the U.S., when you enter the danger and you run into the storm and you admit you need help and you're vulnerable, just know you don't have to do it alone. There's people out there that will help you.
And don't try to, because it's a recipe for
terrible.
disaster. It is.
Yeah, so if you're out there going through a thing and feeling some type of way and you need help and you're trying to do it on your own, it's worse. And I'm saying that I did it. Like I did it. I straight up did it.
Yeah.
And it's the worst. So if you're going through something, get a mentor, get in a peer group, find a community, find your tribe.
Yeah.
So if it's strategic coach, go to strategic coach. If you're running on EOS and you don't have an implementer, go get an implementer who can just introduce you to a community of other entrepreneurs and just the way to operate that's not alone.
Yeah.
If you're an early stage entrepreneur, join eLeap. If you're in a metropolitan area that's got EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, go join it. Because here's the deal. You're going to say whatever you got going through, and I guarantee you, everybody in that room is going to go, yep, I can help you with that. I didn't go through exactly that, but here's what I went through. And you go, oh, you went through that? And there's going to be other people that go, I went through exactly that. And then you're just like, oh my God. Because here's the deal. If you're an entrepreneur, you are 3 out of 100 people. If I took the population and took them down to 100 people. If I grabbed 100 people out of the world, 3 of them are entrepreneurs. So if you feel alone, not understood, and weird and like an alien
Welcome to the crew.
in the normal world, that's because you are.
Yeah.
And you need to go hang out with people just like you who can relate to what you have going on.
So
And you got to get it out. You can't just bottle it in. And so that's when you said those things, it is a journey, but you can be humbled by the journey, like you humble yourself, or you can be humbled. And I've been both. And it's way better to be humble in the journey than to be humbled by the journey.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Now you're going to have both. And in both instances, you need people in your life.
And being
So you
humble,
need people.
Ultimately, it leads to us becoming humble, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, yeah.
That's right.
It
That's
is
right.
definitely
That's the truth, bro.
a roller coaster of life that we live.
I think anytime you're just looking for the destination and you're fighting against the journey lessons, you're missing out on the gold, man.
If you
There's
cannot
gold.
enjoy the journey, if there's no joy in the journey, then the destination becomes a disease and it becomes a perfectionism type thing where.
Yeah, you heard Jake say it. Jake, you said, we bought the business and 2 years later, I was totally gutted.
And I didn't.
Some of you are like older entrepreneurs and you're thinking, the day I sell this thing, then I'll be free. No, the statistics are terrible. The day you sell it, the next week, you'll be the worst because that void you've now created, you've been filling this void with this business. And once it's gone, identity, purpose, time, all that is gone. So you got to know thyself beyond the business.
Back to the self-awareness.
100%,
It's so powerful. As a visionary to another visionary, and as a true friend. First of all, Wayne's World, I love you, man. Appreciate
Love
you
you too,
coming
bro.
on the show. But I want
Sure,
to leave.
of course.
I want to leave the audience with this, since we have a couple of visionaries who are crazy ass, throw it against the wall, random ideas.
Sure.
Everyone listening, listen in closely. Judge me for my good ideas and not my bad ones. 99% of the time, the world is going to be correct about people like me and you, Ryan.
Yep.
Because our 99% of the time, our ideas are going to be really shitty or bad or crazy or so outlandish and unexplainable that no one will ever pick them up. 99% of the time. But
That's the truth.
100% of the time that one idea goes, we can change the world.
Come on. I love it. That's the truth.
It is.
Well, to finish this podcast with you, I would just say
Wrap
this.
it up. Take it home.
If you are an entrepreneur
Yes.
and you have failed, you failed in partnership, you failed in business, you failed with relationships, you took your team and that you got them all lathered up and excited, and you went and pursued an idea and you failed, and you feel like a failure, meaning you feel like it's done. I just got maybe bad news for you. The bad news is, God, and we've already swore a little bit, it's just all bullshit.
Yeah.
It's all head trash. That's the bad news. You're taking on something that's not true. Just doubling down on what Jake said. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, that's all par for the course, babe.
Yeah. Part of it.
Failure is the path to success.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like a head blown thing to realize.
It is fact 1,000% through. The failures are the reason that we become successful.
Yeah, when you look at an entrepreneur who's really wise, you know how they got wise?
They failed
because they just kept going after they kept failing and they learned. Yeah.
Understand and recognizing that too, Ryan, is so powerful. Failure is not something failure is an expectation. It is a criteria for success. It is something that has to happen.
It's in the ingredients.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And like I said
100%.
earlier, it's on that highway to success. Failure and success are on the same path. It's just the perseverance to keep going when it's the toughest is what separates people like me and you from people that give up.
All right, there's a couple more things I just want to wrap this and put a tidy bow on this conversation. If you are a partner person and you are in a partnership and it is toxic and there's nothing to do that can change it, meaning you've done everything you can do and your partner won't do anything, or maybe you're just not a partner person and you're a partnership. Like if your partnership is bad and there's no hope, life's too short. It's okay.
Band-Aid off.
Pull the Band-Aid off, deal with it, and just get out of hell. Mm-hmm. Like, get them out of hell, get yourself out of hell. You're killing your relationships. You're killing whatever it was that you wanted to be in relationship with this person. I'm speaking from personal experience with this. Life's too short, man. Go find the right partners. And if you're not a partner, please save that person and get out of that partnership.
100%.
We started with that, so we started with partnerships. So we started with partnerships. So I just want to say that. And there's nothing wrong with it. You failed. It's okay. Just move on.
But you learned a lot. So is it really a failure? Failure to me would be staying in it, knowing that it's not you.
Yes.
Getting out of it is actually a win and to learn at the same time.
That is a gain. To think of the gap in the gain. To learn this isn't working and to call it is a gain.
Yeah. My attorney, Jim Havens, told me once I was faced with a very difficult business decision. It was a personal, difficult decision that I knew had to be made. And he told me, he said, Jake, there are two types of suffering in life. Short-term suffering, long-term suffering. The short-term is going to be more impactful. It's going to hit harder, but it will go way quicker. And a lot of the time, you just have to pull that Band-Aid off, and it'll go away.
Yeah.
Long-term is a compound effect of day after day after day, pain, suffering, that ends up just driving you slowly into the ground. And we both have experience of this, Ryan.
Yep.
If you're uncertain, then you already know the answer. Pull the Band-Aid off when it's time. In the pain and suffering, move forward. Ryan, from one visionary to the other, brother, man, I love you. I'll see you here in a couple weeks. We'll be heading up north. I can't thank you enough. Thanks for coming on the show. We're going to do this again, maybe at your place when I come up next time. But I appreciate it and look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks.
It was a pleasure.
Everybody go check out the eLeap. It's where it's at. Get rid of the uncertainty. Check out the eLeap and see if you are really an entrepreneur or a wantrepreneur. Iron Infrastructure Podcast, Ryan Henry, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
We'll see you. This episode is brought to you by Max Effort Muscle. For all your supplement needs, go to maxeffortmuscle.com.